The problem, simply put, is the government of India feels that for the sake of progress and profit, as well as streamlining the route for ships, and from what I can tell, they'd only be rather smaller ships. They to cross straight through from between India and Sri Lanka if they get completely rid of this bridge, because this bridge is obviously close enough to the surface to create a problem. Now, the problem is this bridge holds religious significance with Hindus, being called Ram's Bridge, or Ram Setu, because in the Hindu epic Ramayana, written by Valmiki, sorry about that, the story goes that in order to go to Sri Lanka, in order to save Sita, Ram has to cross from India, the southern tip of India. And by using the help of the Vanar army, or Vanar Sena, which are these, sometimes they're interpreted as fully ape, fully primate, the macaque monkey in India, and sometimes they're interpreted as half man, half primate. That's the one that I think personally is a cooler interpretation if it's going to be a mythical story. They helped him build a bridge of stones, an artificial bridge, not even built by men technically, built by these mythical creatures from India to Sri Lanka. So if you're a Hindu and you honestly do have faith in Hinduism, as people of any faith have faith, you'll believe this bridge was truly built by one of your avatars, one of your gods. So you would, of course, feel defensive about any sort of destruction of the bridge, because it's blasphemy, basically. It's desecrating a holy site. This is pretty important to Hindus in India. However, I also learned something I didn't know, which I also couldn't find much detail about, probably just because I don't want to go off on a tangent in my research, because I do want to, of course, finish this project on time. But it's also known as Adam's Bridge to the Muslims. So it holds significance with them too, whether or not they have sort of a direct issue with this. I don't know. As far as I know, it's more of a Hindu issue, and that's one of the major stakeholders is the Hindus, which takes me to our next question, which is, who are the stakeholders? And the stakeholders are, of course, the government, especially the government in Tamil Nadu, who will make perhaps the most profit if the plan goes exactly as they assume. And of course the people in the Tamil Nadu region, as well as throughout India, people who are of the Hindu faith, who believe that this was a actual religious site. This leads me to 3, which is which outcomes does each stakeholder want. The government wants, as well as the Tamil Nadu local government wants, for the bridge to be destroyed and a canal to be built in its place for shipping vessels to move through, which will, of course, generate more revenue for any sort of shipping companies in India, or any interest groups outside of India that want to ship through there. Maybe there'll be a toll, or maybe that area will become like a restricted shipping area or whatever. But in the end, the government foresees profits and advancement, because I mean, building this canal will put that piece of India on the map, because now you'll have vessels moving from Asia, Africa, the Middle East, finding this to be perhaps the quickest route when possible. But of course, these aren't going to be large ships. They're going to be pretty large ships, but not the biggest imaginable. From what I read, they'll be large shipping vessels, but mostly in the scale of ships. They won't be too big, because it's still pretty shallow water. The government in Tamil Nadu, there's this political party called the DMK, which are this Dravidian progress movement. They basically say that they should dig the tunnel. They're saying that it's worthwhile. I mean, the government has a 600 million American dollar, US dollars, contracts to dig this canal. And of course, I can't touch up on the environmental issues, but the economic thing is I did a lot of research to figure this out, and I don't know if I'm just a bad researcher, but I really couldn't find any sort of hard, fast, airtight, bulletproof evidence stating that, yeah, we are going to make a profit. And this is also one of the issues that the people are facing, is without any sort of concrete data to say that there's a profit, you guys are being hypocrites. Because the whole thing is, the government argues that there is no religious significance. At least most of the government is arguing there's no religious significance to this Ram Setu, Ram's Bridge. And it's just a fictional tale. And they're arguing with the people saying, what's your evidence? You know? You guys have no scientific evidence claiming that this bridge is actually made by an avatar. Nonetheless, evidence that avatars are real, that the gods are real. And of course, anyone who is of a religious faith knows that you don't doubt it. You just believe it because to you it's true. So to the Hindu majority in India, they're arguing against the building of this canal because to them it's true, and they don't need to give them evidence. They're like, our God is our God, Ram is one of the quotes. And the government is now saying that there's going to be profits by building this canal. However, they're being hypocrites by contradicting their own argument against the people by saying, give us proof. They don't actually supply any concrete proof that there is going to be a profit. They don't have any sort of contracts written out. They don't have any shipping companies that are like investing in this, any like foreseeable evidence at least given out to the public that it will actually produce development in India or profit in Tamil Nadu. Also, the other possible stakeholders, which I didn't include because I didn't feel like I got enough information to state that they're completely stakeholders, but Sri Lanka. The government of Sri Lanka, they claim that this canal would speed up naval ships because there is a militant organization in Sri Lanka called the Tigers of Tamil Eelam, I believe, and this would help them intercept their small boats when they try to fight or do terror attacks in Sri Lanka. So obviously Sri Lanka was bought on that, so the Indian government did get Sri Lanka's edge, but when it comes to Indian citizens themselves, they couldn't do it. The third question, the fourth question, which is what values, fears, and desires motivate each stakeholder's position, is the first half. That's the whole question. But the first half of that is, what are the values and fears? I mean, the government, time and time again, if you look at India's government, if you read things online about India's government, if you're an Indian, it's just an ongoing joke that's passed through generations, even if you're an Indian born in another country, that the Indian government is pretty corrupt. And I mean, I've seen incidents of this myself when I went to India, when it comes down to the local government level, police forces and stuff, But it's pretty much whether or not this stereotype by Indians of our own government is true. The government's position is that this will have progress and profit, but the way the poverty works in India, although the GDP coefficient is smaller than America's, the poverty issue there is still a big issue because of the population as well. So if this canal is constructed, if money starts flowing in, will the poor people suddenly become middle class? And will the middle class suddenly become upper middle class? And maybe not something as drastic as that, because that would basically solve all of poverty. But if the government's values are progress, if the government's values are profit for the whole country, not just themselves, not just the upper class, then there's many other ways they could do these things and should be doing these things right now in India that don't involve the bridge whatsoever, and at times might even be much more pressing than the bridge itself. So that argument seems to be more of an excuse to most Indian people, while the government always says, you know, everything's done in the best interest of the people and the country. The fears of the government are, of course, not being able to go through with the canal project whatsoever. As Union Shipping Minister T.R. Balu says, he's going to go with the Supreme Court decision, but he doesn't see it happening at all. I mean, the canal is not going to be built is, of course, one of the fears, but not a fear, I guess, that would be like expectation that they hope doesn't happen, but it's a pretty strong doubt that it will happen at all. It's probably not going to happen. But their major fear, of course, would be public backlash, because there's already been evidence of public backlash. After Tamil Nadu's leader, at first, M. Karunanidhi, said that Ram doesn't exist, the bridge wasn't created by him, and the canal should go through. He was actually, I believe campaign buses of his, or just buses of his, they were set on fire, and 2 people actually died inside the bus. And of course he apologizes, and they're demanding an apology from him, and of course you can see here that the people are very strong on their position, on their beliefs, so much so that there's already been a violent attack. Also, there was massive roadblocks, public transportation, like trains and stuff, were shut down by protests. So the people are strongly against this, and that is, of course, one of the fears of the government is a revolt, or an all-out, just complete revolt straight to the upper ranks by Hindus over this issue, which could create a lot of turmoil in the streets. What motivates the government is, of course, profit. What government isn't motivated by profit or control of more land? Regardless, India's government is, of course, trying to search for profit and advancement of India. 2 things that honestly a government should always look for their people. Kind of like a parent for the children without being a parent, because it's a bad metaphor for a democracy. But of course the government should take whatever moves it can to make the best country for the people that live in it. However, of course, the interests, where the money's going to actually go and all that stuff is debatable. It's debatable, and India's government can perhaps be considered corrupt. Of course, the people's values, religious values, fishermen in the area, just feeding their family, the livelihood of their family. If this becomes like a major canal, it might be restricted to public access because of risk of, you know, ship just running into a small fisherman's boat or something like that, or of course, but that does take away one of the values, which is like feeding your family. And then of course there's the religious value. I mean, if you believe in a god, whatever god that may be, or gods they may be, and somebody threatens to insult that belief, you will defend it because that's what you believe in. People defend their beliefs, and if you don't defend your beliefs, then they're not very strong beliefs in some people's opinions. I of course believe that a belief is a belief, and it doesn't need defending. I almost started to sing the theme song to Mr. Ed. A belief is a belief, of course. Anyway, the fears of the people is that the government won't listen. The government's just not going to listen to them, cut right through the canal. And as much as the people may retaliate and as much ruckus as they may cause, once the bridge is destroyed, it's destroyed. So if the government doesn't heed their warnings or listen to their threats, doesn't feel shaken by their protest, and the government goes through with this, the people are of course going to be heartbroken that a major aspect of their beliefs is destroyed, and they can't bring it back. I mean, I guess you can take pieces of it and put in a museum, but what's gone is gone, and if they can maintain its existence, that's what they want to do. That's what motivates them. Their value, fear, and desire all pretty much tie in together. So when I did research, I researched into the history of it because I really wanted to understand what the bridge had gone through, and that's when I realized that it had already been dredged a bit. It's been blasted. It's gone through a cyclone. It's gone through everything but straight up being destroyed, which is it's I'm not going to say it's on its last leg, but it was a lot more than it is today, which I suppose made me understand why people want to preserve it even more. Another thing I wanted to research was who the people are in the government, because saying government is such a broad term. I wanted to know who these people are in the government that have stakes in here. That's when I found out about the Union Shipping Minister, T.R. Balu, which, I mean, Union Shipping is, of course, has a major thing to do. Shipping has a major thing to do with this. And I found out about, of course, the one article you posted about the Tamil Nadu leader. He was one of the government officials that really wanted to, had something to do with that. And then there was the one political party in Tamil Nadu, which is the Dravidian Progress Federation, and they also. So these are, I guess, the three political aspects that fall into the politic stakeholder. It's T.R. Balu, it's the Tamil Nadu leader Karunanidhi, and of course the Dravidian Progress Federation. These people don't really have any sort of agenda that goes beyond the surface. So, I mean, I'm not going to draw a conspiracy theory from this. At least my research wouldn't have given me one anyway. And I'm very skeptical, especially with conspiracies. I mean, there are conspiracy theories in the past that have come out to be true, but there's so many ridiculous ones that are just way too out there. So, basically, it's very surface. You have the Dravidian Progress Federation, which is, of course, in Tamil Nadu, thinking it's purely about the progress aspect. You know, if this goes through, who knows? With all these ships coming through, some of them might stop off in Tamil Nadu. Who knows what kind of vessels start coming through there? They might start to get licenses for more than just shipping vessels. What if cruise liners start to go through there or something? um, there's so much potential for the businesses in Tamil Nadu to get a lot of service by people outside of Tamil Nadu because of these ships. And if it's not the people, restaurant owners, hotel owners, then the profit's going to be at least with the government of Tamil Nadu. And they'll be able to at least move that money back into the people, hopefully, if they use it right. So the Dravidian Progress Federation, in my opinion, is the one that, although they want to create the canal, they're doing so for the most benevolent cause. I mean, Guru Nandi, the Tamil Nadu leader, and T.R. Balu both seem like they have their interests in purely being very modern, secular. Sometimes it almost seems like they might just be playing devil's advocate for the sake of seeming more Western, or there's so many things that can be drawn here. It's been argued by people in India that those who went against the maintenance of the bridge and want to destroy and create the canal are being secular and are post-British mindsets. So a lot of accusations flying back and forth. However, to me it seems like both Balu and the leader of Tamil Nadu both have interests in the profits. So at the end of the day, my decision is to keep the bridge for the sake of peace. It's a democracy, so if the majority of people do vote to keep the bridge, then of course keep it. And if the majority vote to destroy the bridge, then realize that there's repercussions to that. I mean, maybe the majority that votes to destroy the bridge is more apathetic to the issue than the minority which want to keep it. So with people's beliefs, you always have to be very flexible. We're politically correct in America, because of things like these. So I say keep the bridge.